Hello. This week we're going to talk about Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, one of the most important rationalist thinkers of modern philosophy. Leibniz took a fresh look at two fundamental problems inherited from Descartes: the nature of substance and the mechanical universe. He developed the doctrine of monads as a new solution to the problem of substance, while trying to understand the workings of the universe from both a mechanical and a metaphysical perspective. Leibniz emphasized the difference between contingent and necessary truths, and was known as a philosopher of harmony. He studied not only the natural sciences, but also the divisions between Christian denominations, advocating for unity in this area as well. Interestingly, Leibniz, who was also interested in diplomacy, sometimes found his duties in this field hindering his philosophical work. Leibniz was born in 1646. He is considered one of the greatest thinkers of modern German philosophy. Some consider him to be the greatest systematic philosopher after Aristotle. Leibniz was introduced to philosophy at a young age in his father's library, and his multifaceted interests continued throughout his life. He studied in depth in various fields such as philosophy, mathematics, law, and theology. His education, which began in 1661 at the University of Leipzig, led him to the fields of mathematics and law, and he is also known for developing differential calculus at the same time as Newton. However, there was a long-running dispute over who had priority for this discovery, and the Royal Society eventually recognized Newton's priority. Besides this, Leibniz's writings on denominational unity in Christianity are also important. Leibniz's multifaceted work seems to have prevented him from being a full-time philosopher, but his work in Hanover, especially on history, law, and philosophy, shows what a productive thinker he was. Most of his work was published posthumously, and therefore his ideas resonated more in the 18th century. Leibniz tried to apply mathematics to philosophy and wanted to develop a universal language he called Characteristica Universalis. This language was designed to be more than a universal language of science. It was intended as a tool for discovery and proof. Analyzing concepts like mathematical operations and offering a way to arrive at necessary truths, this language is considered a precursor to symbolic logic. Leibniz is known among philosophers as the philosopher of harmony. His effort to bring together the ideas of ancient Greece, the Middle Ages, and his own time forms the basis of his view of the universe. The modern mechanical philosophy's view of the universe as a machine comes together with Leibniz's metaphysical explanations, exploring the metaphysical roots of science. According to him, although everything in nature has a mechanical explanation, there is a metaphysical structure underlying this mechanical operation. One of Leibniz's most famous concepts, monads, form the basis of the universe as individual and living substances. He opposed Descartes' understanding of substance as occupying space and argued that there are metaphysical entities behind physical bodies. According to Leibniz, monads are the most basic building blocks of the universe. However, unlike the atoms we know, they are not physical but metaphysical structures. Monads are indivisible, independent, and self-contained entities. They are like the spiritual atoms of the universe. We can think of each one as an independent spiritual center. Leibniz thinks of monads as being alive. Each monad has a unique capacity for perception. But this perception is not a sensory perception as we know it, but rather a kind of reflection. Each monad reflects the universe in its own unique way and is in harmony with all other monads in the universe. It is to ensure this harmony that Leibniz introduces the concept of pre-established harmony. Pre-established harmony means that every monad in the universe works in perfect harmony, as if it were a clockwork mechanism. Each monad is closed in on itself and does not interact directly with other monads. However, thanks to a harmony pre-established by God, each monad develops in accordance with the general course of the universe. So, although monads do not influence each other, they work synchronously within a universal order. Leibniz believes that there is a hierarchy among monads. Some monads have a higher capacity for perception than others. For example, humans and animals have a higher level of perception than inanimate matter. The highest monad is God. God, as an absolute monad, encompasses the entire universe and ensures that all monads are in harmony. Leibniz's doctrine of monads is directly related to the idea that each monad has its own unique point of view. In the doctrine of monads, each monad reflects or perceives the entire universe in a different way, but this perception is not an external sense, but rather an internal reflection or perspective. Therefore, Leibniz's doctrine centers on the diversity of perspectives on the universe. According to Leibniz, although each monad is a closed entity within itself, it contains the whole universe in its own unique way. So each monad can be thought of as a microcosm of the universe. This microcosm leads each monad to see the universe from a different angle. Just as humans perceive the same world differently, each monad carries a reflection of the universe, but each does so from its own perspective. In Leibniz's doctrine of monads, each monad's perception or point of view represents its limited but unique knowledge of the universe. The perspectives of monads are not absolute, but relative. Since a monad does not interact directly with other monads, it understands the universe only through its own internal structure and perspective. Thus, each monad reflects the universe to the extent of its own perception and capacity for knowledge. More complex monads, such as humans and animals, have a broader and more detailed perspective, while monads representing inanimate objects have a more limited capacity for perception. God is the highest monad and has a perfect perspective that encompasses all points of view. That is why Leibniz says that God unites the perspective of every monad in the universe and contains the knowledge of the entire universe. The concept of perspective in the doctrine of monads makes even more sense with Leibniz's idea of pre-established harmony. Monads act in pre-established harmony without directly affecting each other. Although each has its own unique perspective on the universe, these different perspectives work in harmony thanks to universal harmony. Leibniz's philosophy, especially his doctrine of monads and his understanding of pre-established harmony, has been criticized by philosophers of his time and beyond. Here are some basic criticisms. Monads reflect the entire universe in their own unique way, but they do so without interacting with each other. This has been interpreted by some critics as a lack of real interaction, and it has been suggested that the doctrine of monads is insufficient to explain the world. Human experiences show that we are in constant interaction with the objects and people around us. Therefore, the isolated nature of monads has been seen as weak in explaining human experience. Leibniz's idea of pre-established harmony to explain the harmony in the universe argues that God arranged everything from the beginning and everything works according to this plan. However, this concept has been met with various criticisms. This view of Leibniz seems to predetermine every detail of the universe, and this points to a deterministic structure. Critics have argued that this understanding contradicts human freedom and will, because if everything is already determined, individual freedom or decisions may have no meaning. This view, which argues that God arranged everything in the universe from the beginning, implies, according to some critics, that God also pre-approved all kinds of evil and negativity. This has led to criticism of Leibniz's philosophy in terms of theodicy, the problem of evil. Leibniz's definition of monads as metaphysical rather than physical structures has led to the criticism that his philosophy is inadequate in coming to terms with the concrete world. Because monads are metaphysical entities, Leibniz's doctrine fails to provide a scientific explanation for the workings of the physical world. For example, his inability to explain the mechanical motion or causal interactions of monads has made his philosophy incompatible with scientific advances. The doctrine of monads seems to deny the existence of an objective physical reality. Critics have found it problematic to see the physical world as a misleading reflection. The abstract structure of the doctrine of monads has made Leibniz's concepts difficult to grasp. Understanding abstract, non-sensory entities like monads has been difficult for many thinkers. For this reason, the doctrine of monads has been criticized as a difficult and abstract philosophy to understand. Some philosophers have questioned the logical consistency of the doctrine of monads. The idea that monads, while being completely independent, isolated entities, can reflect the entire universe, has been considered logically contradictory. Leibniz's philosophy, especially when compared to other rationalist philosophers such as Spinoza and Descartes, offers a different perspective on the universe. However, this difference has led some philosophers to offer more direct and interactive explanations as alternatives to Leibniz's views. Spinoza argued that the universe consists of a single substance and that all beings are different modifications of this substance. This is an alternative to Leibniz's view, which is based on a multitude of independent structures such as monads and offers a more holistic approach. During Leibniz's time, Newton's mechanical view of the world was becoming increasingly accepted. The metaphysical structure of monads was at odds with Newton's physical and causal explanations of the universe, and Leibniz's philosophy was criticized in light of the mechanical understanding of the world.